Welcome to Hardiman House and to the 11th episode of Let the Ancestors Speak. In this episode, we're going to be doing a virtual tour of our colored restroom. When Soulma and I were thinking about how we wanted to decorate the restroom, we looked at all the memorabilia we had and decided that we were going to make it into a colored restroom. So when you approach the restroom, you see the sign overhead designating this particular space, and you see a painting next to it. Not a painting, actually, a quilt story done by Faith Ringgold. And this story is a part of a 3-part triptych called Homecoming. And so it seemed appropriate to have a homecoming picture next to the colored bathroom. The first thing you see when you walk into the colored bathroom are 2 posters. One poster says, "I'm not ashamed of my grandparents for having been slaves. I'm only ashamed of myself for at one time being ashamed." There is so much that keeps us from knowing our history, that keeps us from knowing our destinies. Educational systems, media, white supremacy have all made us ashamed of our ancestors, have all made us think of them as passive and docile and submissive. And this is not the truth. Our ancestors were always committed to the notion of freedom. We are a product of centuries of work by our foot soldier grandparents who, as Dr. Maxine Mims always says, who have paid for us. We have been paid for. We have been paid for, and we have to remember that. The next poster is a reminder from Harriet Tubman that says, "I have freed many slaves, and I would have freed thousands more if they knew they were slaves." And it is a reminder that we should not fall into any kind of mental captivity, to not be slaves to money or materialism or internalized judgments and externalized condemnations, that we have to free ourselves every day. The Jacob Lawrence poster opposite these 2 reminds me of our purpose and of the Black mantra that declares that it is our obligation to lift as we climb, to each one teach one, to reach back and bring somebody through the door with you. These 3 artifacts capture many wisdoms that could be very applicable today. Now, the Black Memorabilia Rescue Shelter is on the sink. These pieces have been acquired over time from hostile environments and brought to Hardiman House in order to have a break, in order to have some love. Aunt Jemima is a prominent character in Black Memorabilia collection. She was very, very popular around starting from the 1870s into the present. Her image of the selfless, devoted house slave who cooked the master's food and who cleaned the master's clothes and who took care of the children all willingly was an image that many people found hard to get rid of. It was an image that they wanted to preserve. Same as the Jolly Nigger, the mechanical bank that was built in 1892, was also reinforced a desired white supremacist perspective, i.e. that Black men were happy-go-lucky Negroes who kind of fawned and said yes sir, and protected all their wealth, protected all their money. The reading room is on the far wall. It has books, magazines, and artifacts that attest to the fact that Black people's struggle for justice and freedom has been continuous and generationally victorious. If we open books like the Black Chronicle, we can see that every time they pushed, we pushed back, and that injustice did not go unnoticed and never non-confronted. It has been a continuous battle with each generation. Each generation has its battlefield, and each generation has, in fact, served valiantly on the field. For what we struggle for is right. All honor to Nat Turner, Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth, Rosa Parks, Fannie Lou Hamer, who freed us. All honor to Marcus Garvey and Elijah Muhammad, who gave us a New Deal. All honor to Ida B. Wells, Malcolm X, and Martin Luther King, who had our interests at heart. History is living. History is alive. I say history is a weapon. In the hands of reactionary forces, it can demobilize you. In the hands of revolutionary forces, it can inspire you. History can confuse and misguide you. If I know your history, and if I am in control of your history, I can have you fighting for me against your own interests. Kwame Toure, 1979. And so we come to the close of our virtual tour of the Colored RestRoom. It was a virtual tour because two people could not get in it at the same time. In closing, I guess I want to leave some words with you that have been ringing in my mind since I started doing the research for this segment. And that is that when I looked further into Faith Ringgold's story quilt, there was a quote at the end that I think describes what I've been trying to communicate. The young man is coming, he's been away for a long time, and he's coming back to take his grandmother to live with him in California. And the narrator of the story says, "I knew that boy was special from the day he was born. He was just different with his badness. People used to talk about him after his ma died, and then his pa died, and then he had to run and hide from the mafia. And that's the kick in the ass the black man gets. But A.J. done made that kick into a kiss. And I just love him because he didn't forget his grandma. And he ain't forget where he come from or who he is." And I think that that's one of the values of having a colored restroom. It gives you a chance to reflect on who you are, where you come from, and what's important to you. In closing, I have a question that I would love to hear your response to in terms of the content of this video. And the question is, what would it be like if we taught our children Black history as a series of victories in the fight to restore humanity to the world? Think about it. Let me know. Remember, like, subscribe, and share.